Hello YouTube, welcome to NetHack. I'm Brickroad and I've decided to teach you how to play one of the best and most daunting games ever made. The goal of NetHack is to explore a vast, randomly generated dungeon full of monsters and treasure until you find the mythical Amulet of Yendor, which you bring to the high altar on the astral plane and offer to your deity in exchange for immortality. This is called ascending, and it's one of the most difficult accomplishments in the history of gaming. Playing NetHack is about applying knowledge and making good decisions. There's no element of timing, so there are no twitch or reflex challenges. The game is essentially paused while it waits for you to give it a command. You can give commands as quickly as you want, but you're not penalized for stopping, examining the game state, and deciding your next move based on your surroundings, current condition, and what you happen to be carrying. Learning to take stock of what you have and what you're facing is one of the most crucial skills you'll learn in your NetHack career. Many roguelikes are about making do with what you find, leaving you at the mercy of uncaring random number gods every time you play. An unskilled player might think that of NetHack as well, because the game is almost brutally random as far as what sorts of equipment you find and when. However, this is where the aforementioned application of knowledge comes into play. Usually, in NetHack, if you really want to find a particular item, or for a particular effect to happen, you can make it happen if you know what you're doing. So a lot of the game isn't so much taking your inventory and hacking together a solution, as much as setting goals and then finding ways to achieve them. That's just a brief overview of the game, and if it sounds extremely complex, that's because it is. Getting to that gooey, chocolatey core of setting goals and making decisions means getting past the high barrier of entry, namely memorizing the huge amount of glyphs, symbols, and commands required to simply play the game. That's what I'm here for. Only you will be able to determine whether or not you'll ever ascend, but I can take you part of the way and teach you how to play the game. If you scroll down to the doobly-doo, you'll find a link to the NetHack homepage where you can download the latest version of the game for pretty much any platform you can imagine. I play the Windows version with ASCII graphics, so just keep that in mind if you're on a different OS or playing with a tile set. I've also included a link to the NetHack Wiki, a vast and valuable source of information on just about every topic in the game. Feel free to bookmark this page and use it judiciously as you learn to play. When you start NetHack for the first time, you'll go through a process of character creation and then be dumped into the dungeon with some rudimentary equipment, a friendly animal, and absolutely no clue what to do or where to go. Even figuring out how to move can be overwhelming, so that's where we'll start. Lesson 1. Movement. First thing to do is type an @ symbol to turn off auto pickup. By default, you will automatically pick up any items you see laying on the floor, even if they're useless or too heavy to carry or potentially harmful to touch. We don't want that. There are reasons to use auto pickup, but that's another video. So now you're excited to start running around. Your first instinct is probably to reach for the arrow keys, and while they do work, you will quickly find that they are a suboptimal way to get around the dungeon. Walking in straight lines only is intuitive, but also slow, which will cause you to get hungry faster, be unable to outrun monsters, and basically just cause a whole host of frustration. What you really want to use to move around is your numpad. That's the thing on the right side of your keyboard that looks like a calculator. Use the 2, 4, 6, 8 keys to move in straight lines and the 1, 3, 7, 9 keys to move diagonally. You can move to any of the 8 squares adjacent to you, provided nobody else is currently standing there, in a single step. Moving diagonally will help you save steps, which might not seem like a big deal at first, but they do add up. Monsters have no qualms about moving diagonally, which means you'll never outrun or outposition them if you're not. Learn and love the diagonals. The next thing they'll probably do is hold down the key to move around, just like you were playing Zelda or something. And while this does work as well, you'll probably die pretty quickly if you try it. Remember, time doesn't pass in NetHack unless you give a command. Giving the same command repeatedly, for example holding down the numpad key to move around, will cause time to pass rapidly and leave you wide open to mistakes. Making mistakes in NetHack can prove fatal, and we want to avoid them if at all possible. To understand why moving around is so dangerous, let's examine the move command a little bit. When you press a numpad key to take a step, you're not actually issuing a command to take a step. The command you're giving is attempt to attack any monster standing in front of you, and if there isn't one there, then take a step, and then look at the stuff on the floor, or, if you're blind, try to feel what's laying there with your hands. That sounds like a mouthful, and it is, but that's what the game checks for every single time you push a direction on the numpad. So holding down a direction can cause you to get stuck on a powerful monster who, naturally, gets to attack you every time you bump into it. Bumping into a monster also gives every other monster on the level a chance to act, which can lead to situations where you get completely surrounded without realizing it. Holding down an arrow button is not a smart way to initiate combat. Let's also examine what isn't part of that move command. When you push the numpad, at no point do you make any attempt to look at the square you're moving to determine whether it's dangerous. You can and will bumble directly into water and lava and traps. Figuring out whether it's safe to move to a particular square is your job, not the game's. So what have we learned? First, you can move in 8 directions, not 4, and second, to take one step at a time. Once you've mastered that, you have a few other movement commands available to you. Since the numpad is essentially a combined fight, move, look action, what if you want to only move or only fight? Don't worry, you have a button for that. If you want to take a step without attacking in that direction, or looking at the objects on the floor, type M before pushing a direction. This will make you take one step, nothing more, nothing less. If a monster happens to be standing there, you'll harmlessly bump into it instead of attacking it. And if there are objects on that square, you'll step on top of them without looking down to see what they are. If you're blind, you'll take a step without trying to feel what's on the floor. If you'd rather attack in a direction without taking a step, type Shift F. You'll make a melee attack in whatever direction you press, whether or not anything's standing there. If nothing is, you'll attack thin air. If there's an invisible monster there you don't know about, you'll hit it. You can also use Shift F to attack pets and peaceful monsters if that's your fancy. There are also commands for moving far distances. Type G, then a direction, to walk a straight line in that direction until you see something interesting. NetHack considers monsters, items, dungeon features, and branching paths to be interesting, so using G is a quick, safe way to move around levels you've already explored. You can also use Shift G, which is the same command, except the game doesn't consider branching paths interesting. You'll walk all the way to the other side of the room or corridor you're in, regardless of doorways or side paths. Finally, you can combine the distance of G with the safety of M by typing Shift M. This is like Shift G, except you won't stop to look at anything laying on the floor. This is really useful for walking across maps with lots of trash laying around. That just leaves up and down. To move up and down, type a less than or greater than symbol. You think of these two symbols like arrows pointing your way through the dungeon. Less than points backwards or up. Greater than points forwards or down. Obviously, you can only move up or down if you're standing at a staircase, which, conveniently enough, is represented by a less than or greater than symbol on the map. There's one more direction that NetHack recognizes, although you can't really move there. Anytime the game prompts you for a direction, you can type a period to direct that action at yourself. Zapping a wand of death at yourself is generally considered a bad move. Yet another stupid death. So, now you know a little something about playing NetHack. I'll be making more of these videos in the future, but in the meantime, there's no better way to learn than just to download the game and fail a lot. If you have specific NetHack questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer them in future episodes. I'm Brickroad, and until next time, remember to leave no possession unidentified.